Hey, everybody, welcome to February 7th for the first time ever. Never before in all of humanity, never again, we are broadcasting the first Tuesday in February 2023. How about that? Can you all imagine a day when you were a teenager thinking that we would one day get to 2023? We are closer to 2050 than we are to 1970. Than we are to 1980. How crazy is that? Oh my goodness. Steve, can you believe it?
Won't be long, you're going to be old.
Yeah, I agree with that. I got my hair cut the other day. Someone goes, "You just get your hair cut?" I said, "Yeah, I'm grateful I still can." So hopefully I can keep that going as long as possible. This is the Mule and Donkey Show with Steve Edwards. My name is Dave, and yes, this is Steve Edwards drinking Come Along coffee out of his Coffee by David mug. And every week we get together to talk mules and donkeys. And so this week, no exception. We've got our Come Along coffee here. It's very good stuff. And we are talking mules and donkeys. If you are watching for the very first time, we are sure glad that you're here. Let yourself be known. Even if you watch every week, let yourself be known. Put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like in the comment section. We would love to hear from you, know exactly that where you are in terms of, hey, we're watching from California, we're watching from Montana. Matter of fact, Montana. Steve, tell us about the great state of Montana.
It's cold there.
Truth. Truer words have never been spoken. Tell us another thing about Montana.
That's why we're not going to be there now, but we're going to be in Montana the first week of June. And we're going to be at Superior, Montana. It's by RSVP only. All right. You can't just show up at the gate and say, "Here I am, feed me." No. You must have a ticket. No ticket, no laundry.
All right.
Pretty simple. So we're going to have it. We're also going to have Dave Pingelli's going to bring coffee. And Dave and Di are going to be there from Australia. Yeah. And Di's definitely the better looking of the two.
And David knows that too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I said, you both wear shorts. Which one of you is the girl?
Da-dunch. All day, folks. This is Steve Edwards dropping the mic live. Thursday night is what was it? Thursday night or is it Friday night when things get started?
What's that?
In Montana. Friday night, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually, we're doing the show. We're doing the program Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday's kind of an extra with Cowboy Church and this sort of thing. And we'll probably have a get together around the campfire Thursday night. We haven't planned that far ahead yet, but we're going to be sending out information. So far, Dave, we have 3 participants signed up.
That's awesome.
Yep, and one coming clear from New Mexico.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
That's great. So Steve will be doing a live stand-up comedy routine Thursday night if you're excited. And then Wednesday night, if you get there that early, Steve's going to be DJing a rave. DJ Donkey live on the spin tables. No,
don't pay attention to him, folks. I think he's had too much.
Oh, we do like to have fun. So like I said, if you are watching, we'd love to know. Put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like in the comment section. It would be great to say hello to you and just get to know that you're here. The second thing we ask is that you share and ask any and every mule and donkey question that you've got. The program is steered 100% by you. I've got a few questions that maybe we've had come in over the last week, and we'll save those up. But as far as the program live, it's directed by you. It's guided by you. And so we would love to have you join us and spend a little bit of time with us talking, whatever it is you've got on your mind or whatever it is you're working on. So go ahead and put your name, where you're watching from, what the weather's like. Ask any and every mule or donkey question that you got. And then third, share the broadcast. Real easy, real simple. Would love for you to share the broadcast so that other friends, other family, other mule and donkey folks can find us, join in. It would be so much fun just to get to know them, get to meet some of the people that you're doing life with, and get to share with them some of the things that we're doing here. So with that, going ahead and say hello to Dave, watching from East Texas, where it's 53 degrees and raining. Sherman Johnson, Oklahoma, 40 degrees with a cold rain. And right here, hey, there you go, right there. There's Sherman right there with a great looking shirt on. We really appreciate that, Sherman, sending that in. If you got one of Steve Edwards' t-shirts, be sure to send in a picture of you with your mule or donkey, and we will show it here on the broadcast. I want to say hello to Merlin, who is catching us live. Merlin is a beast on the replays, watching on YouTube, but he's here live today. Jim is watching from Maryland, where it's 50 degrees and overcast. Cowboy Ken watching from Connecticut, where it's 30 degrees and cloudy. We've got Laura watching from Tennessee, where she says it is great weather today. So that's awesome. We'll take great weather anytime we can get it. Barbara is watching from Sullivan, Missouri, drizzly and 54 degrees. And where are Barbara's? Oh, shoot, I've got Barbara's photo. I'll have it before I'm done. I forgot to add it into my scene here. I'll get it added. And then Susan is watching from Wisconsin. So good to have y'all here. Thank you so much for hanging out. And like I said, if this is your first time, put your name, where you're watching from, what the weather's like in the comment section. Steve, let's get right into it. The first question that we have today comes from Ryan. He says, I came across these mineral licks for Equine at my local feed store. I was curious which one would be best for a mule. She currently just has a normal salt lick. And so I got a picture here. Right here, he's got one. The green one is calcium with 0.12%, calcium with 4.4%, salt, magnesium, copper, cobalt, selenium, iodine. The red one, calcium, salt, magnesium, copper, zinc, sulfur, manganese, iron, cobalt, iodine. I have no idea. Steve, what would you say for these salt licks here?
And a partridge in a pear tree.
That's right, folks. Remember, DJ Donkey, Wednesday night, Montana.
Hey, now, look, folks, until you get a hair analysis or a blood test, you do not know what vitamins and minerals your animal's going to need. Folks, it's no different than you. When I go to my doctor and he gives me the test and he says, hey, Steve, you're low on zinc. Well, then he fixes me up, right? Right. Don't go throwing this stuff at these guys. You know what? You can easily colic these guys. Yeah, I colic them by giving them too much of one kind of mineral or vitamin or something like that. Yeah. Stick with just plain salt. That's all they need. Well, now, what do we do? What do we do for the other things? Your hay does not supply all your vitamin and mineral needs. It doesn't do it. Okay? So, what do? You get your veterinarian, you get a hair follicle test, or you get a blood test, and you get an idea of where your mule is. Then feed them the proper vitamins and minerals, okay? Now, even my pellet that we talk about called Lake and Light, which most of you cannot get, it's only a Western type feed, is got to remember that the vitamins and minerals that are on that list for the pellets are what we use here in the Southwest, okay? And I helped develop it with Chuck Lakin years ago. But anyway, another story. So it is where we started. Now, when a new mule comes in or would come in for training, one of the things I make sure of is to make sure they've had a good vet check. And the other thing is, when we feed them this Lake and Light, okay, what have they been feeding to start with? Because we want to change our feed off slow. And then we want to make sure we're giving them the right vitamins and minerals. The vitamins and minerals on the Lake and Light are a good general place to start. It is not the feed, but it is the place to start. Here's the biggest problem that you all got. The biggest problem with any of you, here it is. You don't know what's in your feed. Even though it's hay or even though it's pasture, you do not know what vitamins and minerals, yes, vitamins and minerals, natural vitamins and minerals that there is in your feed. Now, what you're going to find out, and you're not going to be happy about it, is that you're going to find out that salmonella is a very big part of hay, very big part of it, okay? And, okay, why do you have to worm your mules so much when they're in pasture? Because of all the other bird poop out there and snake parts and yada, yada. You know, yes, even out there in your pasture, you got some problems. And worming is usually the biggest problem. So, number one, don't go throwing vitamins and minerals at them. Don't do it. Go to your vet, find out what your mule actually needs, and then feed him from there. And here's the next thing you need to do. Don't put him in another pasture or don't put him in another corral with another mule. Each mule has its own separate stall. Why is that? So that you can keep an eye on their health. Their health, what do you mean? Well, you know how much water they drink on a daily basis, and you should be keeping track of it. You know how much poop goes on the ground, and you should be keeping track of it, all right? If nothing else, just a mental note. And then that particular mule, people say to me, how much feed should I give? Well, how much are you working them? Here's the problem. If you and I went to a smorgasbord all the days of our lives, we would weigh 900 pounds. Or if we just ate good food like Dave does, and be as young as he is. Okay, there we go. So there we are. And by the way, Dave here is, he's not my nephew. He's not my son. He's my brother. Yeah, in the Lord.
Brother in the Lord.
Yeah, I had so many compliments on you today. You know?
Oh man. Did Sandra call you? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, everybody says, "Man, we can't wait to your podcast. Can't wait." And that nice young guy you got over there doing stuff, he really knows the mules, don't he? Yeah.
I've got them all fooled. We got let's see here. We got Barbara right here. Send in her picture. She got her mule picture there. How awesome. Very, very cool. And of course, Steve, what's she got there in her hand?
Yeah, she got the come along right there, which is the communicator. Okay. Now, you know, a lot of you, when you go to another country, you need to have a little book to see what word is what, you know, or you need to have somebody interpret. Well, that come along rope is your interpreter. It says to the mule, this is the way it's going to be, no other way. You know, train them yourself, folks.
That's right. Next question we got. This one come in from Emily. Emily sent us a message late last week. Says, I recently purchased a mini mule. So we got right here. Welcome to the family. That is terrible to lead. Oh, man. Sorry to hear that. He's about 2.5 years old and intact. He is being gelded on Monday. I would like to teach him to lead better, and I know that gelding him will probably help, but I was wondering if you make smaller sizes of your mule halters. My little guy is only about 10 hands and wears a pony-sized horse halter. Really looking forward to train him correctly so he can be a nice pasture pet. What would you say here to our new friend Emily, Steve?
Okay, number one, yes, brain surgery, i.e. castration, is the best for everything. Is it too late? It's almost too late because it's really difficult on older animals that are still intact, all right? Okay, so number two, I can make that halter fit a mosquito. You get that, folks? Fit a mosquito. Everybody says, well, the place where you put the lead rope on is too long. It's not there for looks, folks. The halter's not there for looks. It's supposed to have 2 knots on the nostril, the rope come along the side, and then a Turk's head knot, and then adjust it correctly on the side for the size of the mule. I can fit that halter to a mosquito. But don't worry about having extra rope hanging out. Don't worry about having extra rope hanging down from where your lead rope is. No big deal. Those two parts are only pleasing to the eye. What we want to do is better communicate. And that's the purpose of adjusting the holes on the knots to be small enough. Now, that's number one. Okay. Number two, don't use a mule halter. Don't use the mule halter. No, not for training. No. Start with the come along hitch. Remember the picture we saw before? Yeah, of Mrs. White. And she's got another name too. But anyway, there you are. You see that come along? That is what you need. Not the halter, folks. Take the halter, put it on the nail for the next 6 months, okay? And use the come along rope extensively. When you can, take the lead rope and have it on the ground and the mule don't move. You can start considering using, hear that? Considering using the halter. The main purpose of the rope halter is to be used when you're doing surcingle work so that the mule will be vertical on the nose and the head down when you first start in surcingle work. Then the next part is the martingale. So I was asked by a lady today, what are your steps? Well, my steps are, we use the ground communication kit using the come along to start with. Number two, we take the halter from that kit and we put it on a surcingle and they do halter work. And number three, we do martingale work with the mule rider's martingale with a surcingle. All right, simple steps. Well, she wants some other steps in between, whatever. Here's the problem. I can't see your mule doing different things. I don't know what it's doing, so therefore I can't say this should be step one, this should be step two. Some animals can go really quick. That's only because of you. You are communicating correctly. When you are not communicating correctly and the mule doesn't do what you want him to do, you didn't do it right. Yes, you did not do it right because you're the one on the end of that lead rope. And if that mule decides to leave and go someplace and it took off, not the mule's fault. That's what the mule knows. You're supposed to fix it. So you fix it while it's supposed to be small. So what do we start with? Come along rope, ground communication kit, and don't worry about the halter. I can fit a mosquito with that halter.
There you go, folks. Great question. Great answer. Put a link in the comment section to the Ground Foundation starting kit. And if for some reason you forget to click it now, but you want to look later, you can always go to muleranch.com and you can find everything there available. A lot of stuff free. That's right. F-bomb free. A lot of stuff that's paid. A lot of stuff that'll get you where you need to go very quickly, very easily, and a lot of stuff that's going to take some time and intentionality. But that's what it is to own one of these animals. It's just every day is a different day for a mule. Every day is a different day for a donkey. And that means that your training is going to need to be such that you're able to make these adjustments. So very good. Thank you for that question there, Emily. Want to hop back over and say hello to Polly from Barnesville, Minnesota. 34 above. We'll take that. That's way better than 34 below. Sunny and beautiful. Hey, coffee by David himself, David Pengelly. Beautiful day here in Manchester, Georgia. He's loving it. Mike is watching from Chandler, Arizona. Mike, you're probably a stone's throw from where I am right now. Dobson and Chandler. Good to hear from you, Mike. Sunny and 70, headed to rope on my old buckskin. Lane is watching Spring River, Oregon's 30s raining. What is the difference between your trail cinch and Arizona cinch? Will the trail cinch work on a pack? Help me understand.
Well, the trail cinch you're probably talking about is the saddle cinch. The saddle cinch needs to be two because the back cinch is the most important when you have a rider and how the rider sets in the saddle. The Arizona cinch is meant to be with a pack that is dead weight, that you have the mule going down the trail with a breeching and a breast collar on, which will be different too, okay? And that mule is packing dead weight, i.e. freight. So that'll be pack boxes, fencing materials, all kinds of stuff. So the reason is so that it helps balance the saddle correctly. The saddle cinch needs to be the rear one, and you need to have the focus on the rear cinch. The pack cinch needs to be dead center, pulling on all four corners because it's dead weight.
Awesome. Next question come in from Tess. Hi, I am from Queensland, Australia, and I have 2 standard sized donkeys which I would like to break into saddle. Would you be able to point me in the right direction which saddles to buy for my donkeys just for pleasure riding? If you know anyone in Australia I should contact. Regards, Tess. What would you say here to Tess to get her started, Steve?
Well, Tess, the first thing is, of course, congratulations on the donkeys. And you're very fortunate because you do have a good donkey and mule guy right there in Queensland. And Dave can text you or email you his email address, and you can email him and talk to David, and he can help you out with the donkey stuff. So yes, the trail light is where I would start. And congratulations on your donkeys.
Awesome. Very good. Hopping back over, let's see who else is hanging out with us today. Boo! Roger is watching from Milan, New York, 38 and cloudy. Teresa from Minnesota, sunny and beautiful, where it's 34. Dave O'Brien says, Steve, I have a problem. It's very wet where I live, and the paddock that I keep my mule in is extremely muddy. Under the circumstances, is it better to let her out with my horses for a week because of the mud, or should I just leave her in that environment to keep them separate?
Dave, just leave them in the environment. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, a muddy paddock. That's tough. It really needs to have, like on my corrals, half of a 10 by 20. The 10 foot by 10 foot is under roof so that it stays dry, and then the rest of it is out in where it's going to be getting wet. So I made underneath the shade a little higher than the rest of the other 10 by 10 foot, because 10 by 20. So the other 10 by 10 foot is not in shade, and it's a little lower. Now the other thing, David, is I use granite, and I make my corrals up in such a way so water runs off. Literally, when we have rain, by the second day, it is toasty dry in there. That's mainly because of the way I set my corrals up. So try to have your corral set up, folks, in such a way so that they got a dry spot to stand. Okay. Of course, it's not the best in the world to have them in a mud puddle all the time, because yes, you can soften up the feet, and yes, you could have a problem. So, David, if you need to take them out long enough to get your corrals fixed up, that's one thing. If it was me and I was going to fix the problem, I would take the mule out, tie him beside of the trailer, bring my tractor in, bring my granite in, make my paddock really good, and set it up, and then put the mule back in there. Folks, here's the problem. Mules are very, 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 very subservient to horses. And yes, even if they can see them 2 miles away, they'll still try to find a way to be with them. It's okay to have a mule and then a horse and then a horse all in the corrals. That's fine. But to eat and drink and to walk around with them, where you have problems. Now, Dave, I sent you an email with a lady who said that she was just having all kinds of problems catching her mule and this sort of thing out in the pasture, and it got worse and worse and worse, where she could not catch the mule anymore. And so she said, when we finally did catch him, I put him in a 10 by 10 pen, and yeah, he went bonkers for a while. He walked back and forth, reared up in the air, broke a gate, tried different things. All right. But now, a couple months later, the mule is fine. Okay. Folks, they can't stand prosperity. And you don't want to get it started, because once you get it started, it can be a booger. And especially like the pasture animals, the pasture pets. The lady before had a little mule that needed to be castrated. It'll be a pasture pet. Folks, your mules, donkeys do not need a pasture pet. They don't need it. Don't listen to them, folks. I know I've got clients that right now want to go for a ride, and they can't go for a ride because the mule won't leave their goat. Or they can't go for a ride because the mule won't leave their horse. Or they can't go for, you got the idea? You know, and now can you make that mule leave them? Yes, you can. But get ready for a fight. Get ready for a heck of a ride it can be, all right? And does it need to get done? Yes. You need to be able to learn to ride off and away from all the others. Yes, you do. But don't, in the meantime, don't encourage it. Don't encourage it. They don't need to be all together. Each animal needs to have its own stall.
Very good. I do have some pictures here. You did send me some pictures from Barbara. These pictures right here got sent in. So go ahead, talk to us here, Steve.
So here, folks, remember I've been telling you about training yourself. Do your own training. These are things most trainers do not understand. The picture in the middle. Notice how the mule is standing, nose on the vertical, and the top of the pole is even with the wither. Do you see that? Okay. Now she's letting the mane grow out, which is going to be nice. If you keep combing it and you use some softener on it and stuff, it'll fold right down. My wife's little mule had about a 3-inch to maybe 4-inch mane all the way across. I never trimmed it, but it just really looked nice all the time. So let's go back. She's got the martingale on there, the mule rider's martingale with the surcingle. All right. And notice there's nobody on the mule's back. Of course, you can't really see, but see, there's nobody on the mule's back. And yet the string, you see that string on the picture to the right? That string is what's communicating to that mule. That's light. That is lighter than that rein. And the rein can make the mule brace. So that's why I've developed it so that the string, as they move and put their head up, like the right-hand picture is, put their head up, that string puts pressure on the bit, which is adjusted down to the strap between the legs, which you can see in the middle picture. And you want it loose, as you can see. Notice the reins are loose. Look in the picture to the right. You see the rein hanging loose. The only communication is coming off that string. Light, super light. Now, the picture to the left is the picture of the mule chewing on a bit. Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do. All the mules are doing on the left and on the right is asking questions about the bit. I'm going to chew on it. I'm going to move my head here. I'm going to move my head over there. I'm going to put my tongue over top of the bit. You got the idea? They're doing all kinds of things. They're trying to figure out, how can I be the most comfortable with this bit? And they'll finally figure it out, and they'll look like the picture in the middle, where the head is down, nose is on the vertical, mouth is quiet. Now, what did she do? Yeah, she's a good one. She listened to me. Immediately, when the mule started doing that and getting soft and dropping the head, just a couple minutes later, she walked over. She gave the mule a nice pet. She pulled the bridle off, pulled the surcingle off, and gave the mule the rest of the day off. Yeah. So you see, folks, this martingale is a key training thing, because you don't have to be there. You don't have to be on the animal. Because, as a matter of fact, I'd rather not have you on the animal so that the bit will do its job. Because if you're on the animal, guess what? You're moving reins around, and the mule has no idea. They have no idea what you're doing. But you put it on their head. You put it in the surcingle. We got a picture of the surcingle too, Dave? I think I sent you 6 pictures altogether.
I got 3 pictures. These are the 3 that I got. I do have some from last week though.
Of her with a surcingle?
Yeah, let me see if I can bring it up here.
But folks, yeah, you see, there's the surf single. Notice how loose the reins are, folks. They're really loose. They're hanging loose. So the bit is doing the job. And notice the picture to the left, how the mule's got his mouth open and he's kind of trying to find a way to get comfortable. Give them the time. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Go get yourself a cup of come along coffee and watch the mule. Make yourself a campfire. I don't know, whatever, and watch the mule. Watch the mule change, and leave that martingale on there. Now, before the martingale was what? The rope halter adjusted. Now we want to start with the rope halter because mules and donkeys learn from their nose. They're not a very good learner from their mouth. So when it comes down for training and to build a foundation or to fix a problem, it comes from the nose first. That's why the come along rope, then the rope halter, now the martingale to teach bitting.
Whoops, wrong button. Hey, there we go. Thanks so much. That was a great question. Appreciate that. Next question. This one's come from Ward. I'm writing because I am in need of advice. We got you, Ward. I'm new here to mule ownership. Let's just go ahead and give him a little bit of that right there. And recently purchased my first 4 mules. So he didn't start with 1, not 2, not 3, but his first 4 mules. Ward is a bold man. My wife and I are moving to Montana in 18 months. Superior, Montana? Maybe an early visit? I've tried to do a ton of research prior to picking them up, but I have run into a basic problem and I want to figure it out before it becomes a big problem. 2 of my John mules, both 9 years old, came from different places. The owner advertised them as easy to catch. I picked each one up and both were easy to catch initially. When I got home, and I have them for about a week, I have run into a problem that they are very difficult to catch. Once I get them, they do fine with working. But if I approach them in the pasture, they bolt from me. I've tried everything I can think of, and I'm very discouraged because I'm not sure what I have done wrong. They are currently pastured with 2 other mules and 3 BLM donkeys. Any advice would be much appreciated. Ward, you've come to the right place. Steve, what type of encouragement do you have for Ward?
Okay, Ward, here's the thing. And everybody else, I want you to think about this. When the mule is in an environment he's used to, he's going to respond to a lot of different things because of the environment is satisfying to him. He's aware of what's going on. Plus that, the individual that was catching the mules was catching him in such a way so that most likely, if it was me to catch a mule, this is what I would do. I would always approach the shoulder. I never approach the nose. I never put my hand out and say, come here, Fluffy, come over here. Come. No, I don't do that. I don't use the carrots. I don't use any of that stuff. I approach the shoulder. The shoulder is my neutral zone. And if when I went to approach the shoulder and the mule left, I would run them off. Get out of here. Because they need to understand that I am the most important person in that corral with that mule. Did you hear the next word? Corral. Did you ever hear me, folks? Did any of you ever hear me say, put them in a pasture with a bunch of other animals? No. No. Okay? I was just talking earlier. Here you are. Here's a lady who couldn't catch her mule. At first, she could catch you, no problem. Well, pretty soon that mule says, nope, want to be with the horses, want to be with the goats. You're not the top of the pecking order. You're the bottom of the pecking order. Folks, don't put them in a pasture. Each mule needs a 10 by 20 stall, 20 by 20 at the biggest. Make those stalls so that they are weather resistant. Like I said, in my corrals, the first 10 foot is granite, and that part sets up higher than the next 10 foot, which is just a little bit of about a 3 to 4 inch drop off. And then it's granite there as well. Why granite? Water runs off on granite. Set your corrals up in such a way so that the water will run off. No reason a mule or a donkey or any of them, folks, should be in knee-high deep mud. No. you should set up your corrals in such a way so that water runs off. So what do I tell you to do about catching your mule? Number one thing, folks, I tell you, when you bring the mule home, put the mule in a stall by itself. You bought 4 of them, you better have 4 stalls, 20 by 20. And if you don't fix the problem now, you're going to be calling me in a couple of weeks. Hey, Steve, my mule is over in Kansas City. Yeah, because, that's another story. So here's the thing, folks. No pastures. If you want problems, put them on a pasture. One of my favorite stories is over at Pierce College in LA. All of my students at Thanksgiving wanted to turn their mules and donkeys out in a little pasture that we had. All it was dirt. There wasn't even a weed out there. But they wanted them to run and play out there and play together. And then we'd have some people come and feed them accordingly. Guess what? I told them, don't do that. It's going to set your back in your training. When we come back after the holidays, after that short 1 week of Thanksgiving, it set the average trainer back almost 2 weeks, because you see, those mules and donkeys don't need you out there. They don't need you. You've got to build a foundation. You don't do it with a bunch of other animals. You've got 4 different mules yourself. Each mule has a 20 by 20 stall. It's okay to have them together. It's okay to have them nosing each other, things like that. It's not okay for them to be eating together or drinking together, because you have to take care of their health. How do you take care of their health? You watch how much water they're taking in. You watch how much feed they're taking in. You can adjust the feed accordingly. You can see how much salt that they have, and you can see the poop and know how healthy they are, the urinating places to know how healthy they are. In other words, it's not just a matter of having them in a small pen to catch them, which you found out the downside of that, but it's a matter of their health. It's a matter of feeding them correctly. There's where you need to start. Take them out of the pasture, put them in a small stalls. That's where they go.
Awesome. Thank you for the question. Hopping back over to Facebook, YouTube, Roger is watching and he says, Steve, what are your thoughts on composite shoes? My farrier thinks that my Jenny, who has had hoof issues, might be a good fit for composites. What are composite shoes made out of versus traditional shoes?
Well, it depends on the type of manufacturer, but it's just like plastic is one way to say it, rubber in some cases. I don't know. I'm not up on the newest, latest, greatest work on doing correctional stuff. But if this farrier says it'll work, well, give it a try and see how it gets corrected.
So no hard position against composites versus metal?
No, we're good.
Okay. Next question, or actually next person, Miss Backwoods is here. Hope I didn't miss much. Well, you know what? Miss a moment, miss a lot. But the good news is there's always a replay. And the great news is we're going to keep going here, Miss Backwards. So we're glad that you're here with us from here on out. Eileen is watching. Hello, everyone. Sunshine and 40 degrees here in Nebraska today. Serious snow melt going on. Linda the mule servant and Theo the sweet one-eyed mule in a hip-deep, muddy central Ohio. Stay safe. Stay warm. Stay you, Linda. Linda and Ryan from Cary Plantation, Maine. 25 and sunny, warming up. Matthew has a question. Can we see some of your stalls? Steve, I'm going to try and see if I can bring up a video here to show. But go ahead and just describe your stalls real quick.
Well, basically my stalls are 10 by 20. So they're 20 foot long, 10 foot wide. I find that is best to be able to keep the animals in a big enough area for them to do some moving. But it's small enough that when they get ready to leave, they don't mind waiting for the gate for you. Every time I start training mules and they go in these small pens, they can't wait to come to the gate and meet you because they want out of that little tiny pen, okay? So there's my stalls. I guess you're pointing at them, huh, Dave? Yeah. So you can see now that right there happens to be Stacy, and it happens to be that I opened a stall. That's my wife's mule. happened to be that I opened a stall so that she could have a 20 by 20. We had enough. This was during the summertime when I did a whole lot less during the summertime. But you can see how my stalls are, how it's half covered. Okay. And oh, that's not Stacy. That's a client's mule there. Okay. Now you see here how the mule is not wanting to be caught and how he's approaching the shoulder, keeping his hands down, looking straight ahead. When you look down, you're asking for permission to be in their herd. Now notice he is approaching the mule. That's what we want. We want to be able to, I want to approach the mule. I don't care what the mule comes to me. I don't really want that. I want to approach the shoulder. The mule's not happy about it, but the mule also, you can tell that by his tail was switching. You can also tell you that if the mule took off, which he did earlier, we ran him off. Now, Dave, we got some YouTube stuff on this, don't we? So where they can watch us do it. Notice he's approaching the shoulder, and there's my corrals, as you can see, high and dry.
Yeah, so that's an entire series that's free on YouTube. It's called Establishing Leadership. You find Queen Valley Mule Ranch and just look for the Establishing Leadership playlist. That'll give you everything. I'm going to put a link in the comment section here, though, so folks can find us on YouTube if they're not already there. Find us on YouTube. Lots of really great stuff there. Thank you for asking that question, Matthew. I appreciate it. Matthew is watching from Lexington, North Carolina, where it's 65 degrees and beautiful. Steve, let me see here. I got a couple videos you sent in. I'm going to throw this up here. Let's see. Why don't... Give me a second. It's these videos you sent over from Israel. And so, let me see. Locate file. For some reason, it's not loading properly. Give me a second.
Hey, folks, when I was over in Israel, I was over there training some mules and some men from Israel. Now, when we arrived there, I went over and talked with them. Do you see that, folks? See him walking on that wall? Then watch him come off. Notice one-handed, okay? There he's two-handed. Now he's back to one again. Notice the mule walking down that little narrow wall, okay? When this guy, just like the rest of them, when they came to my clinic, those mules were dragging them in. All the mules were dragging these guys. They could not do what you're doing here now. They couldn't do it. Now, we're talking, 5 years ago now, since I was in Israel, training mules over there. And notice how he is taking my training. Notice it's my saddle too, bridge and breast collar, bridle. Notice he's taking my training methods and he's gone farther. He's now taken that mule to where that mule trusts him and says, you want to do something difficult? Let's walk along this little tiny wall. There you are. Pretty impressive, huh? Okay, so when we ended up the training, Dave, those Israeli guys were standing on top of their mules, waving the Israeli flag. Man, I wish I could find that picture. It was really cool. But anyway, that was the end of the training session. But here it is, 5 years later. Look how this guy's advancing. Now, this is the son of one of the guys that was in my class. And the father has been teaching the son. And here's the end result. Look at there, folks. I mean, how many of you can... You notice how this is so smooth and easy? The mule ain't just piling off. Mule's head's down. Ears are flopping. He's comfortable. Tail, look at there, nice and quiet. He gave him a little bit of a spur and said, we're going to go off. So, yeah, the tail went, okay? Now the tail's going to hang down quiet a little bit right about there. He got quiet, and then he got quiet again. Okay, now he's going to give him the leg. Notice the leg right there to the left. And that's when the tail started, okay? And all that tail is saying is, I understand what you want. But see, 5 years later, they're advancing their mules. And looky there. They're training themselves. There are no mule trainers in Israel, folks. Only the 10 guys that I started. That's the guys that are still going. And it was really neat, Dave, because back then, When I said 10 years ago, it's not 5 years ago. Back then, that was when my hips got replaced and I couldn't ride.
Mm-hmm.
And so they actually hitched up a team, a horse to a buggy, and I drove the horse and buggy on our trail ride.
How cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast that time has gone by, isn't it?
Oh man.
It's gone by
Yeah.
so
The
quickly.
folks from Israel are always contacting me and saying, "Hey, Steve, look at what my mule can do now," and they're doing it themselves, folks. That's what I want you to understand. You don't need to be paying these so-called mule trainers, which are horse trainers. And there's folks out there right now that are saying they're mule trainers, and just look at it, the way they're training. Look at the halter. Look at where they place their saddle. If you just look at those things alone, you can see they don't really understand what a mule should be doing. Just those couple things.
Next question. This one's come in from Kentucky. I'm starting to find interest in having a mule. Welcome to the club. I raise sheep and cattle. Where are you guys located? Do you recommend anyone from Kentucky that raises mules? Now, we are located out in Arizona, but that's a little bit irrelevant because we don't have any store location. There is a ranch, but it is not open to the public. It's only open a few days out of the year when we host a clinic and you have to purchase tickets in advance. So it really doesn't matter where we're located because we ship all over the world. Now, as far as finding somebody in Kentucky, we've talked on this broadcast already about how you can train yourself. Steve, number one, do you know anybody in Kentucky? And then number two, what might be a big objection to somebody who has spent most of their time raising sheep and cattle but wanting to possibly start training a mule?
Well, good. I mean, here's the thing with mules. They do very good working sheep and cattle. What you don't want to do is you don't want to turn the mule out there to graze with the mules, I mean with the cattle or the sheep, because they will gather up those babies and mother up to them, and they will kill the babies inadvertently to try to keep them from their mothers who are frantically wanting them. All right. So they're great. So best thing I can tell you to do is to take and um, take and get yourself a mule. But before then, go and spend a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time, getting education. Because people are going to say, "Oh yeah, then man, this mule is like one lady. She spent $18,000 for a mule, and then she spent another $2,000 a month for training for 6 months, and then that same mule, before she even started training with a trainer who used my progress, by the way, the guy who she bought the mule from flew down and got bucked off and got himself hurt. So there you are, folks. Don't just buy a mule. Get educated first so that you know what's going on, and you can tell yourself ABC and know how to buy that mule.
Hopping back over, let's see. Linda says, if Theo sees the come along rope in my hand, he stands still wherever he is. Now, for folks who don't know Linda, Theo is her mule, not another human in her life. It's her mule. So there we go. Let's see. Matthew likes your hat. Steve, what hat are you wearing today? Oh, hey, there you go. Y'all can get that over at mountainridgegear.com. Eric Lynn sells the original ATV hats. Those are very popular. They're great hats. Steve's been wearing that one for a while. Whenever it is Cowboy Day at my school, at my kids' school, Steve gave my boys original ATV hats, and my youngest, my little 5-year-old Stevie, he puts it on, and my wife says, Stevie, it's Cowboy Day. He goes, yeah, a real cowboy gave me this hat. And so he wears his original ATV hat whenever it's Spirit Week and it's time to dress up like a cowboy. Carolyn's got a question, says, my 20-year-old mare mule has developed a huge crusty neck. What can help reduce it? What's a crusty neck and what can help reduce it?
Well, what it is fat pockets along the top of the neck. Instead of being narrow, the neck is now wider, and because of all the overfeeding the mule has got, and now it's called grass founder. That's what it is. And what can you do about it? You can put them on a dry lot, like I tell you guys, with stalls like my stalls, and put them in there and start watching their feed. Take the carbohydrates away and only feed a good quality feed, and buy a stud. Hear this? It's called a stud neck sweat. You can get them online. They're called a stud neck sweat. And especially when you're riding a mule on a high humidity day, on a real high humidity day, you can take and put that on that mule and it'll help sweat it down. The problem with the crusty neck, it depends on how long it's been on there, okay? If it's been on there several years, it's going to take several years to get rid of it. It especially happens on Belgians and Percherons, your draftier type animals.
Next question. This one's come in from Erica. Erica messaged and said, let's see here. How did I do?
There's Dave.
There we go.
Now you're on my left-hand side.
There we go. I pushed the wrong button. You push one wrong button, the whole thing comes collapsing down, y'all. Erica says, good afternoon. My name is Erica, living in Burlington, Washington, where it's been trying to snow all day. I do have a question. Any chance you could ever hold a live stream later in the day? I can't watch because the live stream is 2 p.m. because of work, so sadly I won't get to participate. I'm a new mule owner, bought my Molly mule 3 months ago, and we are doing great. Not sure if you will get this, but here it goes. How much riding do you have the participants do during your clinic? So that's a two-part question. Let me answer the first one. So Erica, the latest that we will do them is 3 p.m. Pacific time. Arizona does not change their time zone all year long. Our time zone stays the same, and we do it at 3 p.m. our time. So as soon as daylight savings time comes up here at the beginning of March, it's like March 12th or something, everybody will roll back their clocks. And is it roll back their clocks or forward? Everybody will change their clocks. You know what you're supposed to do. And all of a sudden, we'll go from 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 3 p.m. Daylight Savings Time. All right? So we will be a little bit later when Daylight Savings Time is on. The second answer to that first part is occasionally we will do a live webinar. And so it's a little bit different format. Steve will have some prepared remarks, some things that he wants to talk about. And so we will do those several times out of the year. So if you are not on our newsletter, you can go to muleranch.com, get signed up, and you'll get a notification when those are scheduled. So Steve, how much riding do you have the participants do during your live clinics?
You know, folks, riding is not what's important. It's not. Unfortunately, most riders, quote, riders, can barely communicate on the ground to get the mule to do what it needs to do. And then when they get up in the saddle, all of a sudden they don't understand what to do. And the mule, they think they do, they're setting the mule, and they don't really understand. So what do? I start you on the groundwork, and I keep you there. Now, I can tell you that I've never had anybody hurt in my clinic simply because I watch each one of you. I see you. I know if you can ride. And folks, there's a major difference between riding and setting. If you can ride, you're going to ride 80% off your legs, 20% off your hands. You're going to understand where to put your leg in what place for side passing, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters. You're going to understand how to ask them to back up. You're going to ask them how to make them stop. So simple basics, all within a 10-foot circle. So to answer your question, I've had a lot of clinics to where I've had people in the saddle for less than 2 hours for the clinic. Okay, that's it. Okay, mainly because they needed to focus on other things. There's more to it, folks, than riding. It's like making a cake. The icing doesn't make the cake. The preparation makes the cake. The preparation to get there, to cook it, to mix up the mix and all this stuff. That's the preparation. That's what makes the cake good. And that's what makes your riding good, is how much preparation. Now, there are times that I will have some people sit down and kind of take a break, which I do quite often. We do take different breaks, and then I'll focus on particular people. Now I got some people that, yeah, they're having a problem with the animal backing up, so we'll work on that. We're having a problem with the mule standing still, we'll work on that. But riding is not the important part, folks. The important part is learn to communicate correctly.
Very good. Hopping back over here, we've got, let's see, Judy is watching, mid-30s and gloomy in my part of Michigan. Hope it gets better there for you, Judy. Lorraine is watching from Southern California, where it's chilly and 70. Linda says, curious to hear Steve's answer. I think I missed part of it, Linda. Let me know what you're looking for his answer on. Lorraine's question is, my mule bolted on me and I was lucky to stay on. I changed the bit from a snaffle. Once they bolted, will that be the reaction when she is spooked?
Folks, it's called flight and fright. Flight and fright. She was telling you before she bolted, there's a problem. What was happening? The head elevated. The nose went out. And you didn't fix it then. You see, when the head comes up, you want to roll your hands right, left, and drop the head down. When the nose goes out, you want to use your hands right, left, so the nose goes on the vertical. If you're using a smooth snaffle bit, all you're doing is creating problems for the future. When you really need to stop that mule, you can't stop him. Why? Well, he's been doing all these other good things. Yeah, he has. But now he's under pressure. And and this happens all the time, folks, we don't have the idea of the feel of the elevated head and the nose sticking out. We don't know what to do, okay? So changing bits does not fix the problem. Listen, bolting is part of an equine. They all buck. They all bite. They all kick. They all run off. They all bolt. They all do it, folks. It's there because they perceive there's a problem. And so then they take off. Kaboom, bolt. Okay? Will they telegraph you to start with? Yeah. Folks, it's like driving your car. If you're driving your car and you let go of the steering wheel, the car's going to go wherever it wants to go. But if you're focused on driving and you got the steering wheel correct, the car is going to go straight down the road. Same thing with your mule. Your mule got allowed to take a split second of your time, which you didn't see, and little by little got this deal, and he says, okay, next time there's a problem, I'm out of here. Okay? Number one, changing bits don't fix it, folks. Nope. Okay? Changing my hands fixes it. Then comes the bit. Where to start? Ground communication. You cannot do enough ground communication with that come along rope. No. You watch me. I put that come along rope on my finger and I just walk around. And the mule follows me. I don't have my hand on the rope. I just got it on my finger. Why is that? Because I did my foundation work to start with to get the mule to lower its head and focus on me. Focus on me, straightness. Then I can walk around with just the weight of that rope on my finger and that mule will respond. So go back to this. What do I teach you to do? I focus on teaching you how to better communicate with your donkey, how to better communicate with your mule. Riding is not important. Not for any of you. Riding is not important. Right now, everybody should be cleaning their saddles up, looking for breaks, looking for problems, making sure the saddle's in good working order, and then surcingle your mule. Surcingle. Or take a few minutes and put the come along hitch on him. Yeah, there you are. See? So riding's not important.
Awesome. Hopping back over, we've got Judy watching from mid-Missouri, gloomy and chilly today. Eileen says magnesium helps avoid a crusty neck. Gerald Welch is watching from Arkansas. Love this show. Love you guys too. Thank you, Gerald. Appreciate that. Received. Linda says, spring forward, fall back. There we go. Spring forward, fall back. I'll have to think about what that actually means. I have never had to change my clock in my entire life. Uh, Time zones are a tricky thing. I know how to get the time zone straight. I have a hard time remembering. Spring forward. So that means everything comes up an hour earlier. All right, so it'll be an hour earlier, I guess. Okay. Merlin, Dave, an easy remember time change, spring ahead, fall back. There you go. Y'all are trying to help me. I'm going to have to take some prayer time here to get this correct. Cassia's watching. Good morning from tropical North Australia International. It's very difficult to store hay here due to humidity. How many hours at pasture is generally enough for a mule? So the problem here is I can't store the hay. If I'm going to let them out, how long could I let them out for?
Every pasture is going to be different. Some pastures are going to have more carbohydrates. Some pastures are going to have less. Take your samples of your pastures into you probably got ways there to test things. Find out who does it. Most of the time here in United States, it's the colleges and especially the farming end of it, and they test the feed out there to know. See, folks, it's not a matter of how many hours, okay? It's a matter of how much is in that feed. If you want a crusty neck and you want to have grass founder, turn them out into a pasture, okay? You cannot keep an eye on their feed intake or their poop or their water out in a pasture. And I realize, yes, I hear you. It's hard to maintain hay, but there's also pellets out there, folks. Check out the pellet program. You can read my article on Mules Can't Stand Prosperity on pellets.
Working on getting that link right now. Yeah, Steve put together an entire video. It's free. That's right, F-bomb free. And it walks you through what you need to consider when you are creating a feed and nutrition program. And so you can check that out, nutrition. That's the link right there. And then feed and nutrition program. Steve's also got an article online where he talks about what is in Laken Light. Most folks can't get it. And so what Steve did for you was he put the ingredients on the page that I just shared in the comment section, where you can print off those ingredients, take them to a feed shop and say, hey, what do you have that is closest to this? And that's a starting point. So that's not the end all, that's not the be all, but it is a starting point for you to be able to build your own feed and nutrition program, making sure that all the vitamins and minerals that your animal needs is in there. And the only way to know that is to get a blood sample test or a hair follicle sample test. You can get them from extension centers. And those blood sample or hair follicle samples, that will tell you what might be they might be producing in surplus or what they might be producing in a deficiency. And so go ahead, check that out. I put those two links in the comment section. Steve just sent me a message here. Steve, what are we about to take a look at here?
Okay, this text was sent to me by a client wanting to know about a mule that was really easy to catch and things like this. And it says here, I've been using the come along hitch on my mule, but I'll also work with him in catching him, haltering him in a group of threes. He seems to be regressing over the last couple of weeks to the point that he sees the come along or the halter and immediately tries to walk away and fights me, turning his head away, trying to get away from me when it comes to haltering. But if I have nothing in my hands, he is friendly and will walk up right away to me. And now he's starting to do that with the come along hitch. Oh, really bad days I have. I use a nylon hobble in his front feet and still to try to keep him still. And I know it's probably me. Yes, you're right. But I have been so encouraged by progress over the past month and a half, and last week has been so bad. All right, so number one, folks, look at the stall here. Nice stall, It's got the corral panels, all metal. It's got the horse no climb wire on it. And notice the stall. Notice the mud track in the left-hand side where a vehicle had stepped in the mud. So you know it's muddy out there. But notice, even though it's muddy out there and this sort of thing, that the mule is high and dry because he's under roof right there a little bit. And the rest of it is sand and built up. So now, here's the problem. You walk out there with a rope in your hand, and the mule sees you and goes to take off. When he does, hoot and holler, slap your legs, make him move around, make him go. You don't want to be with me, you're going to be made uncomfortable. Now, Dave, I know we're running out of time here because it's 4:06, but the video that we showed earlier with the mule in the corral, and what was that section called?
Establishing leadership.
Establishing leadership. Okay, she needs that establishing leadership video. Okay, folks, the biggest problem with this stuff is that we telegraph ahead of time and do the same thing. Don't look down. If you look down, you just said to your mule, "I want to be in your herd." See, when a new mule comes into a herd, he drops his head and licks his lips and asks for permission to come into a herd. So, going back to this, if you're walking, you're looking to make sure you don't stumble or something like that. So you look down and see where you're walking. Don't do that, folks. Just like you see the picture, the video, in this video, the guy is looking straight ahead. He has his hands down, and he's not saying nothing, and he's approaching the mule at the shoulder. Now, let me just give you another for instance here, folks. I don't like to do treats, but here's what I would do, okay? If I was going to do this, and I had a mule that just didn't want to put the halter on, I would have the treat, i.e. a piece of carrot, in my hand with the halter. And I would take and have the carrot sitting down to where he could see it. And then as I would bring the halter up and tie it off, I would then give him a piece of the carrot. Okay, holding it out flat, always flat-handed. Never have the mule come into your space to get a carrot. They're always to be out of your space when you do this, because I don't like feeding treats. I don't like feeding but to change a mindset. And this mule now has had this in the past. You just didn't know about it until it's come about now. So I would use a treat for a short time until that mule started coming consistently to that halter. All right, that's number one. Number two, go back and watch the videos that Dave's sending to you, and it's how to be the herd leader. And it's extremely important you do that.
Awesome. Let's see here. Allison is watching. Yeah. Let's see. I think Allison watching from Belgrade. Signed up for the Montana Clinic. Who's with me? Awesome. Allison's going to be there. Belgrade, Montana. Lorraine says, thank you. Teresa says, will you come to Minnesota to put on a seminar? Teresa, we can do that. The way that it works is we talk with you about, maybe what you want to do. And what will happen is someone will commission the clinic to happen. And then we will work to help fill that clinic with you. If that's something that you want to work on putting together, you can reach out to us and we can get the conversation going from there. Merlin says, the biggest problem I had when teaching kids to ride for the 4-hour program was to get them all to pay attention to their horse at all times. When they got that down, many of their problems disappeared. Steve is right that you can prevent most of the problems by paying attention to your animal. Megan says, thank you. My mule swings his head for haltering. I will try this. And with that, Steve, we are done. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us today. Really appreciate it. You can go to muleranch.com. Any of the products that we've talked about are going to be available there. But more than that, you can find all sorts of great articles and videos referenced at muleranch.com to help you get the information you need. Now, some of that information is going to lead you to maybe buy an instructional video or upgrade a piece of equipment or get that come along rope. That's fine. We're going to tell you. You make the decision on whether or not you want access to those tools and you want to get that leverage that comes with them. And if you do, we think you'll be very happy. There's a lot of things there that are free, and you won't need to spend one dime, and you can get $1 million worth of results by just being diligent and patient. But at the very least, we want you to know that we are available to help you with anything we can. Steve, anything you want to say before we're all done here?
No, basically, Dave, you mentioned that we are not open to the public, and that's exactly correct. Folks, especially now that I'm retired, it seems like I'm busier now. But to be open to the public, to have people just to show up is extreme inconvenience. But it's also very difficult because I've got things lined up for my day. And if you go to show up, then I can't take the time out of my day to spend time with you. Now, the only reason I mention this, Dave, is a couple weeks ago, I had some nice folks come in from Idaho. And they just showed up. It happened to be that I was going out my gate, and the gate was open, so they just thought they could come in. And I was pointing at him to turn around and go back. But he went ahead and pulled up. And he says, hey, we've been watching your stuff and this sort of thing. I said, look, I'm sorry, but I don't have time right now. And I need you to go ahead and leave so that I'm not running late. Okay. And I really, folks, I really wouldn't mind spending time with you. Most of you I can just talk to on the phone, but showing up to the ranch and hoping to be able to talk to me and this sort of thing is next to impossible. I keep my gate locked for a reason. And these folks from Idaho, I really feel bad, Dave, because they were there and this sort of thing.
Well, the thing is you really want to provide the best experience for folks, and you really want to make sure folks have accurate expectations when you get together. And the bottom line is it just doesn't give folks access to the best experience. It doesn't give them an opportunity to really get all of the benefit of what you would want to do with them. And it just kind of makes it difficult to really have something that's worthwhile. We just hate folks spending time, wasting time coming out to the ranch and just finding out that, hey, it doesn't work out. And so really it comes from a heart of tenderness. It comes from a heart of service. It comes from a heart of wanting to make sure that you get the attention that you deserve. And quite frankly, one of the things that has made it so great is doing these live stream shows. It's always been the case that it's hard to meet one-on-one with people. And Steve spends hours every day talking to folks on the phone. And gosh, we just wish we had more time and more availability to do it. It's just a miracle of the internet that we're able to do so much through the internet. And it's really opened up the gates for us to serve folks beyond what we've been able to do in the past. So yeah, I hear what you're saying there, Steve. Yeah. Your heart behind it is to, give folks the attention that they deserve. And so we make this live stream available. We make Steve's phone and email available, and then we make Steve available for those expos. And that's because you deserve the very best. And so when Steve is out there, he wants to give you the very best.
You bet. Well, when I get the phone calls, I'll gather them up and I'll sit down and I'll make phone calls. But like these folks from Idaho, I really feel bad. If they get a chance, maybe they'll know who they are. There was 2 men in the front and about 3 women in the back, and they had Idaho plates. But they can give me a call and let me talk to them on the phone. I really felt bad that I had to ask them to leave so fast because I was going out the gate myself, Yep. But anyway, give me a call. You got folks call me. I'll be happy to help you. Dave, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. We'll see y'all later. God bless.
Everybody.